Welcome to part two of the New Shores podcast, Scenes Edition, in conversation with percussionist, drummer, and educator Rosendo Leon, commonly known as Chendy. I'm your host, Tim Harrison. In part one, Chendy discussed how the Cuban culture ties together all passions with flavor, his perspectives on the society into which he was born, being arrested for not looking like a good Cuban, and his eventual escape to Canada, partially thanks to the portrayal of Canada through early 80s CBC family drama. In part two, we discuss the challenges of assimilating into a new culture, his opportunities with and approach to education, and how it feels to be inspired by both offering knowledge to and receiving knowledge from everyone around him. So please enjoy the rest of my enlightening conversation with Chendy Leon. Now, when you decided to stay and you requested asylum, what was happening with your family? Were they aware that you were going to do this? Were you able to contact them in any way, or were you isolated from them once you had made that decision? How did that dynamic work?
No, I was never isolated from them.
Okay.
Because you could pick up a phone here and even make a collect call or pay for the call here by a calling car or just dialing through bell phones at the time, home phones, right? And you connect to a line over there. And we didn't have a phone in our house because it was almost impossible to get a phone even if you wanted to pay for it to get a new line. But some people that had already and were transferred from family member to another family member, old doctors, people that were important, consider their role in society, they need to be, available. So the hospital needs to call this doctor, and we happen to live beside a doctor. And beside also someone that culturally was an agent for the government, but a sweet person, and it was like family to us too, and they had a phone, so I could call my parents on both of those lines and talk to them. As far as I think you asked if I was kind of afraid or if it was difficult. I think it at the time, because there was no computerized system in Cuba, things would take longer to get in the system, in the Cuban system, notified, and I think it was faster here. Definitely, I can tell you that at the time in '99 and 2000, my refugee process, paperwork, it was done so quickly. Within 11 months, the government was able to do that, and provide you with some legal documents that you can then legally start working and do your things. But perhaps the government wasn't informed that well in Cuba, or it would take longer because of the bureaucracy. So right away, I didn't lose any time. I, provided my parents with an opportunity to come with a contract, real contract. They came, they worked, and they did exactly the same thing.
Oh, wow. So what was the contract? What did you get?
It was related to music, because as we go more like back in time, in the city of Toronto, there were less of the Cuban community, of the Brazilian community, of these other community. So there were perhaps a lack of Latin musicians, not as what it is today. There's tons of Cuban musicians, there's tons of Colombian musicians, there's tons of Brazilian musicians that the city have access to them, because this has been, migration of people coming into Canada, right?
Right.
So there was a lack of let's say, percussionists. Perhaps there were other percussionists in Canada, but not necessarily that knew. Sorry, I meant to say a lot of percussionists in Canada, Canadians, great percussionists, but perhaps they didn't know that well Cuban music.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So this festival was looking for a host that could, just talk in Spanish as the person was hosting, and that's what one of my late roles that my mom did in the island.
Oh, okay.
A host for a cabaret type of club, and she was the host for every weekend. At some point. And my dad was in that band that was playing at that club, that cabaret.
Oh, wow.
And Dad came as a percussionist to join the band that was going to be the band for the festival, accompanying many singers that would come and sing the repertoire, different styles of music. But it was a Latin fest.
Oh, okay.
Everything was legally done, nothing, legal. And then they decided to stay after. Did the same process,
Wow, that's fabulous. And were they as impressed with Canada as you are?
I believe so. Impressed in a good way, and also they had a different experience than me. I came when I was 26 years old. They came already when they were, let's say my dad was 50-something, my mom was 40-something, late 40-something. So definitely it's different. I'm not saying it is for everybody, it is the same, but it gets harder to adjust to a different cultural, different rhythm of the city, of the people, and to accept that.
Right.
Because it could be hard, but you eventually you will get there and you will integrate and be somewhere at a comfortable, position or feeling. And you see yourself as one more of the city, not anymore as an outsider or someone that, that don't know how to interact with people, because in the first place, you don't know the language.
Right.
I knew a little bit, and even though once I got here, I realized that I didn't know nothing. Because the fact that you go inside a store and people just see your face, they don't know that you don't speak.
Yeah.
And someone would say, how can I help you, sir? Are you going to pay just for gas? Or would you like to play Lotto? Would you like to, I don't know, get some snacks? And I would be like, huh? I just came to pay for gas. And I was hoping that she would ask me, or he would ask me just for the gas, the bill that I know it was like $21 with 50 cents or something like that, right? And then
use the little bit of language
you know that much. Or people would just talk to you thinking that, excuse me, can you help me? I'm just trying to find, where Kensington Market is, and then they wouldn't stop, but then go like, sorry, no English, sorry, no help, cannot, right?
Yeah.
And in my experience, in our story for my parents, it's been harder.
Wow, yeah.
My mom didn't know any English. And still that lady women are amazing.
I will agree.
It's just like, it's that part of our other half that to me, they are the strongest, the smartest. Not that we're not smart and that we're not wise, but naturally we're creatures that I think there's something that we are capable of doing really well, and other things we have to realize that not necessarily could be done in that way, that we could do it in a different way. And women are so connected to the planet. Their senses are just amazing because they give birth, and my mother can go outside with my dad and they're traveling, and my dad knows English a little bit, but that's a lot compared to my mom that knows nothing. And the sensors picking up in my mind, my mother's brain, she can guide my dad, and she can be the leader as opposed to my dad knowing the language and being able to communicate somehow with people. My mom would figure out things in a way that my dad wouldn't.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So you find a way.
Yeah.
To get by and to go through,
My grandparents were English, and they moved to Portugal, to Madeira, and my grandmother became fluent in Portuguese. My grandfather did not. Couldn't speak a single word of Portuguese.
And do you know when they moved there?
Late 70s.
You see, in their late 70s, you see, so that's different for everybody.
Late 60s, I would say, late 60s. And then, they stayed there for almost 30 years. And my grandfather he would just smile and nod, and everybody took care of him, and he got around just fine. But my grandmother would be speaking fluent Portuguese, and everybody felt bad for him, but they took care of him. It was wonderful. It was such a thing to see. But yeah, she was the brains of the operation, but he was a fabulously intelligent man, but it was just not his not his culture, right?
Yeah.
So he loved it, and he would smile and have a lovely time, and they spent half the year there, but they found their way to make their way through it.
Absolutely.
And it became their second home, and for my grandmother, almost her first home. But it's wonderful to see how you find the ways that you can fit into a society, and you can build that relationship with the society, even if you don't speak the language well.
That's right.
Right?
That's
And you
right.
can learn to get by. That's I love the idea that can be separate from politics and from
Absolutely.
borders. It's just, as you say, we're humans, right? We just live and travel and move and do as we should, right? Treat each other well and go on, right? That's it.
That's it.
Now that you're in Canada and you have a status, did you think of doing anything other than music, or did you want to do anything other than music, or was it always about the music for you?
It was always about the music, and I knew I was gonna do music only at some point in Canada. But I had it very clear that when you get to a new place, whether it is a huge city, even more, it gets more complex, or really complex, for people to get to know you, because you bet that there are going to be tons of people doing any sort of job or position, multiplied by all the people that are here, and then there will be many people doing, able to play bongos, able to play drums, able to drive a car for a company, able to whatever, right? So I had it very clear that I needed to do anything that come my way, or that I could find, meaning any job. And then I did, in fact. I did roofing. I learned how to, work on roof and change all the shingles. I did meat packing. I did carpentry.
Yep.
Right. I worked at a place, a factory, shaping and making columns, like wood columns. And what else did I did? I delivered newspapers. I worked at the Toronto Sun. Night and day at the beginning, because you're young and you have a lot of energy, even though you realize, like, after that, you put in your body through a lot of abuse, because it doesn't matter how young or how old you are, you have to have balance in your life. You sleep well, you eat well, and then you can do kind of any physical activity after that during the day or during the nighttime, but you have to have balance to that. You have to go to sleep, you have to rest. So I did what I needed to do, at the time. And then I also had it very clear in mind that I wanted to bring at least my immediate family, my parents. And I also brought my dog.
Oh, wow.
I felt terrible about leaving my dog behind.
Wow.
They become part of our family.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I felt like awful just imagining leaving her with someone else and not even allowing that creature, because I have respect for every creature in life. That's how we are able to maintain balance in this planet. And I brought it. I brought it even before my parents, a month before. We planned it so well, and everything came out the way that we planned.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I love that. So, freedom for the dog.
As well.
Freedom for the dog. That's wonderful. And how did you feel that there was well, you said it was a smaller Latin music scene at the time, or Cuban music scene
That's
at the
right.
time. And this was the late 90s, you're saying?
Very late 90s.
Very
In
late
99
90s.
I showed up, so I really had like just 6 months left of the 90s. Then right away into the 2000, and then the computers, and something's going on in the world, and
Right.
something's gonna happen, and nothing happened. Just carry on, and
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the music started, scene changing, whether for good or bad. Like, some clubs will go, and other ones would open, and then people hear about you. People, there's a new kid in town, and he plays percussion, but he also plays drums, and he's able to play all these Latin music on the drum set, or as a percussionist too. And and then you try to be good to people, and eventually come back to
On
you.
Right.
You plant a seed, and you water that seed, and then you get a plant, and hopefully whatever it is that you're trying to get out of the plant, fruits, or environment, doing something for the environment. And that's what happens in any area in society. And when you're new, you have to do that even more.
Mm-hmm.
You have to integrate. You have to be nice to people. You have to not overstep over, someone that it's already respect that,
Mm-hmm.
but just be nice and just pass your info around and say, hey, I'm so and so, and I live here. This is my city now as well. And if you ever one day need a sub, or you're looking for a percussionist, or I can play guiro, from guiro to bongos to congas, timbales, drum set, or even backup vocals, or anything, even if you just do one thing, but you have to put that voice out there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have to play many things. You can, bring something to the community.
Right.
By being honest and say, this is what I do and this is what I can provide the city with, and be integrated into the rhythm, and learn the scene, learn who's who, the festivals. Oh, that's great. And musicians, they can get grants here to support by the government, different governments through, they give less, they give more,
Mm-hmm.
but still, Cuba, you get nothing.
Right, yeah. So here you at least have the opportunity to try,
right?
Versus not having any opportunity at all and never getting the chance to try.
Right. And by that, I don't say that we don't have issues as citizens of this city. Yeah, we have lots of issues that hopefully we're able to fix and resolve them one day, but it's better. And when you have that A, and this is the B point,
Mm-hmm.
and you are able to compare the two of them, then you build an appreciation and an awareness for it, and you don't take things for granted.
Right. Yeah.
Which is something good.
Well, let's carry on a little bit with your life here. So, as you said, you're an instructor at Humber.
That's right.
So, how did that come about? Was it through introduction of people that you knew that you were playing in the scene with? How did you find out about Humber? Had you always wanted to educate others? What took you down that path?
It's exactly what you first mentioned. It was by interacting with other musicians, being part of a project or a band, and then you meet this person, and then you become co-workers, friends, and then eventually that person is in a situation one day of, wishing to have other players working with him or this institution, and then all of a sudden he's in charge of doing that role, which is Mark Kelso.
Okay, yeah.
One of the most incredible drummers that I have ever met, in my life, that this city has, this country and the world in general. And, he asked me one day, we don't work that often together, but we had worked enough and, and played together that he felt comfortable, kind of counting on me for this idea, because he took over the big responsibility of being the head of the percussion department, the drum department there at Humber,
Mm-hmm.
because Roger retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me, and I said no, because I was not looking for teaching. I had so many things to work and to go through still as a musician. We can never stop.
Mm-hmm.
We could go on forever. In fact, it should go on forever. The finding, the studying, the exercising, the practicing, all that. He asked me, and I said to him, no, I don't think I can do that. Because right away I was very critical with myself, and I said, how can I teach other people? I don't even know how can I do that? Am I capable of doing that? I wouldn't think so. But he was so kind, and he says, okay, I'll ask you again at the end of the summer. Take your time, think about it, because it's a great opportunity for the school to have a musician like you, that you have your experiences, you know so much about music that people can benefit from that. And yes, you can teach, by the way. And also you can benefit from being part of an institution like that, because I'm sure you would learn so much. And 100% accurate, 100%, what he said. And I spoke to my other half, my wife, and my family, my parents, and they goes like, you should go for it. Go for a challenge. Go. Like, it is a challenge, but the good things in life are always a challenge. And then that's how we learn. That's one of the ways that we learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said yes to him, and then I started. And then I was always struggling how to find the best way to communicate to students, meaning that I'm there for them, not for me, not for the job, not just to get paid and to have this role, this position at Humber College or any institution, or to give them a hard time. It's not about that to me, to teach and be responsible of passing information to other ones. It's about a well understanding, well communicating really well with them, that they gain, that they have a good experience with you, and luckily you change their life in a good way, you affect their day, that they actually learn something new. That's what it is to me, to teach. Prepare them, to be there for them, and to ask them, so what would you like to work on today? You're forcing someone to be in that position to think. Because it could be very simple and very just like comfortable to go in a room and just wait for the teacher to give you stuff. Okay, I'll play that. But it's not only about that. How would you internalize that? How would you be creative with that musical? How would you take that pattern and make it into a different pattern, or break it apart? If you are in that situation, if you're brought to a studio and then you're asked by the person in charge of the session or the producer, so it's like, okay, that's a good rhythm, and I agree with some of that stuff, but how can you break that down? Or can you play a variation from that? Well, I guess the best always route to go is like, absolutely, just give me a few seconds or a minute, whatever, and let me work something else for you, because the other one will be the wrong one. It goes like, no, this is what I play, and that's it. That would stop you even from growing right there, because you find something else the moment you are put in the spot, the moment you're challenged with something new. You just have to be not afraid of finding new ways of being in front of people, and then not being prepared. That's fine.
As a teacher, how do you defeat those fears with students? Like, how do you take someone who has that fear of extending themselves or taking that chance, and how do you give them tools to get past that? What do you have a particular method, or is it is it unique for everyone? Is that something that you find key in their learning experience?
I think that it is unique, and especially in the way that I do it at Humber, which is in a private lesson way, which is amazing because you can work with the student or the person one-on-one. And it allows you to really pay attention to her or him and be there for them and see what they need to work on, and not having the pressure of having 19 other students waiting for you to give them something to do, or that you give something for all of them to work on, and some are really fast because their skills or their experiences already provide them with a fast learning pace. Other ones learn at a different pace, slower. But it doesn't mean that they're any less than the other ones that learn fast. So what private lessons allow is that you can work on one-on-one and be there for the student, and not take not sacrifice the attention to that person when you work with a group. I'm not saying it's wrong or it's bad. It's an awesome experience too, and you're challenged too. With working with a bunch of people, a group of people, right? But I'm a fan of working on one-on-one, and that's wonderful because I just try to be very as honest as possible, meaning like just be present in the room with them, listen to them, ask them, involve them with a nice, clean, clear conversation. Be simple with them. Play for them, what either they wish to work on, or what you bring into them, what you trying to teach them, you show them, and play it, show. There's no better way than talking about it, define it, explain it, and sit down and play it. Because and this is why, and this is how I do it, and I also do it this way. And when I'm asked to do it in a different way, or the tempo changes, this is how I do it. And why is the clave important? Well, the clave is important because it holds all these other elements together. That even whether the clave is being played by someone or it's not, all these other elements, even they don't listen, they're not hearing the clave, they still playing in clave. Like the cascara, like the bass, the tumbals on the bass, the conga groove, the bongo groove, the timbale groove, the drum set, everybody's it's playing united. The clave, it's uniting them, So all that, when you bring all that and you bring it in a clear, simple way to them, and you go through the oral tradition, which to me is one of my favorite ones, because it's like, this is how it's done. Here. And we go through the struggle of you going through the process of finding a comfortable way to do it. But to me, that's powerful. And that's the way it's still done in Africa. And you get a whole village or a whole place or a whole community playing integrated, and then one person playing one element, the next one plays another element, and they all form a massive, powerful groove. And that is powerful. So
are you moved by a student getting it? Like the moment you see them pick it up, or the moment you recognize that they're recognizing what it is that you're trying to impart, or they're suddenly able to internalize that, does that move you?
Absolutely. It moves me because, again, it goes back to, and to answer another question that you asked me before about when you were here, what did you use the fact that you were Cuban and you were more like, authentic. I never abused that, because I always recognize the human condition of respecting people by who they are, and agreeing with the fact that they're all the people working really hard at what they do, and there is excellence on each person. And anybody can play anything, any instrument, any music style, as long as they are allowed, they have skills and exercises put in place to lead them to be comfortable one day to play that style of music. But I never take for granted that because you're not from Cuba, or even never imagine saying that to someone. Because you're not from Cuba, you don't sound authentic, or you don't sound like what Cuban people sound like, because it is not true. Many musicians they do that mistake, and they think that just Cuban musicians sound that way on percussion, or or on piano, on bass, and it is not true. It's not true, because you just gotta be really good at what you do, and when you're good at what you do, that instrument it's an extension of you, your body, your mind, and you're capable of playing pretty much any kind of music as long as you do the exercise of practicing. Doesn't mean that it comes free and easy to even when you're born in the island. No, you still have to practice and understand the concept of the music and how it's done. It doesn't matter that because you're born there and then because you have the music, it is true, it helps. But it doesn't come with you. You have to work. And there's no secret to that, there's no shortcuts. And anybody can have access to that as long as they have access to that music and that style and understanding. Someone that is ahead and can say to them, this is how we do it, this is what it's done, and this is why it sounds this way. Right? And so when I totally get moved by students, and I get really, and I express to them, that makes me really happy. And that you just made my day, because it's a proven, every day that I go to Hamburg, and I see it in front of me, it proves that it is right how I feel and how I approach things with them. It is the correct way because, you know, I'm not separating them from the Cuban players. No, I'm integrating them, and then everybody is good as long as you work on something, on what you do, you know?
Does that feed back into, are you learning from your students as well? Are you finding things that when you're playing professionally rather than teaching, that you're influenced by the experiences you've had with your students?
Totally.
Really?
Because there's some students that once they got to you, to start with you, they had already gone through other teachers that brought awareness to them, and they're already playing what is considered Latin music, even though that's pretty wide and pretty crazy term to call it, because what's Latin music? What's European music? What's American music? There's so many formulas that we can, you know, play a song and the groove within the song. So it's not really defined, but when it comes to the Cuban music, you know, some of them, they have already experience, and they're ready to take the next step and the next groove and the next groove. And then there's those that they said, hey, Chendy, have you thought of doing this groove with this other element, or playing the clave with this other thing? And I go like, no, I never thought of that. That's a great thing to work on it. Why don't we just work on it right now? And I show them my struggle. I really don't care. I don't think as myself as important. I don't have to put up with a way, a personality, or something, some kind of, you know, how can I describe that? You know, nothing. I am who I am, and this is who I am. And if I know, I know. And if I don't know, I'm never afraid to say, I don't know about that. What is that, Tim? Can you teach me? Can you show me what that is? I don't know that word. I don't know that rhythm. I don't know what you're talking about, that concept, or that issue that is going on right now. So with the students, it's the same thing. I go, why don't we work on it? And they see me struggling with it because it's something new, fresh, you know? And I think, to me, that still is a lesson to them. I think that I wish that they can see it. It was like, look at this guy. He's holding a position here that he's supposed to be teacher, but he's just like that. He goes and he works, and to me, that I'm showing them that they have to be comfortable if they want to make it in this hard industry, which is music. You know, there's no record labels anymore. It's harder. It's somehow more even. I see it. A lot of artists it's even. They have the tools and the opportunity to work really hard, but are promoting themselves, and it's more even. Back in the days, I think it was where you got lucky if you signed with a record label, but there were many other bands that never got. They were never heard by any record label, so they were playing bars, and they never had a chance to tour nationally or internationally. And now most bands, at some point, they make it into an international market. They can travel, they can expose their music now across with the internet, YouTube. You didn't have that chance back in the days, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I truly get inspired by students and by my colleague there, you know, Humber, Larnell Lewis. What a fantastic.
Yes, he is unbelievable, isn't he?
Human being.
I've met him a few times. We've had some really lovely conversations. Like I've not had a chance to sit down with him for an extended period of time. I would love to.
Yeah.
He's a very busy guy.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, beautiful human being first. With all these guys. Again, Marito Marquez, Mark, you name it. Because you have to be good to other ones. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you know, or what you do, you know, how good of a guitar, a bass guitar, drums you play. The moment you're not humble and good to other ones, I think the doors, they start closing for you. But Lionel is just another of those those example of people, and an amazing monster player. My goodness, what that kid can do in that instrument, and always hungry, always, you can see him, always learning. Now we have become, I think, I always knew of him. Who wouldn't know about, if you're in the drumming community,
right.
the musical community,
who
the name Lionel Lewis is, you better go and search and then pay attention to what he's doing, because he's definitely putting, pushing, personally, and also the community. He's getting Toronto out there. Where are you coming from? From Toronto. That's already something that he's doing for the society, for the city. By exposing, by him playing with all the bands, the amazing artists that he works, and all the countries he travels, and how he plays. So it's just it's an amazing place, and a great community in Humber. Amazing players all over. That in all the departments, in the music program, the jazz program. So it's amazing. It's amazing to be part of an institution like that. And it is, so far, I think it's one of the best experiences that and the most important changes in my life as a musician.
And such exposure to ideas and
Absolutely.
and sounds and opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
That seems Humber seems to be a generator for great ideas. That seems to be what I'm seeing now. There's been I've heard people say that it's also a bit of a ticket. It gets you places just because of the amount of great musicians who have gone through there and who have taught there as well. That you sort of get that leg up, if you will, because you've been through that learning process there. Do you feel that is unique only to Humber? Is there something that can be exported to other music colleges? Is there something special about what you're doing there that is generating such great artistry?
I don't know other colleges, because my experience has been with Humber, and only Humber. Before that, I would go, maybe once a month or so to a school to teach kids at school and bring awareness to them as for the percussion instruments. And this guy is coming from Cuba. His name is Chendy Leon, and he's gonna show you and bring you awareness of what this instrument is, what you can do with the instrument. And that's great, but it was very isolated, right? And a community and a place like Humber, I don't know, and I wouldn't even dare to say that other schools are not doing that of a great job, because I don't know how they do it, and I don't know where their programs are at. And I know many musicians, they also work, let's say, at York University or Toronto, and they share what they do also with Humber and these other institutions. I know that Humber has raised their bar and their level in the last 10 years. I keep hearing that it's great, and there's tons of students from all over the country and internationally also that go to Humber, because they keep hearing that the level keep going up in quality,
Well, it seems that Mark Kelso felt that you could contribute to that. So
I guess
it's got a little bit of pride has to be there. Do you feel that you've reached a level in your career where you can feel satisfied in having learned so much, and that you have so much to impart to others? Is there any of that sense, or do you always feel that you're always still struggling for more?
No, I don't feel that I'm struggling for more, but I do keep it this way within my mind, that I'm not satisfied, because there's so many areas, as you know, as a musician also, that we have to work on. Just the drum set, it's an instrument that it's like unbelievable. The things that some musicians can do, and the things that we have access to do, all of us, But it means that you have to work really hard at that. You have to sit down with the instrument and practice and practice and practice. There's no other way. So I find that there's still so much that I have to learn, even within the staff that I feel most comfortable with, which is the hand percussions. I always consider myself a percussionist and not a drummer, even though I play drums. But there's so much, because you learn then this technique that comes from the classical Indian players of the North India that belongs to tabla or belongs to a different instrument, and then you see all of a sudden a light. Oh, wait a minute, that changes the game for the bongo, and when I do this, that can provide me with a different technique to achieve some sounds and some phrases. So it's amazing. It's always amazing, and it's the beauty of music is that we find a way. Composers always find a way to find a new way to put those same chords around, a variation, extra, note there or whatever, or semitone or tone also. But it's always amazed me, the power of music. And how we not reinvented, but offer something unique again and again and again and again,
Is that our consistent human experience? Is that everybody has something that they can offer in that respect?
I would think so. I could be wrong, but I think that everybody has something to offer completely. Now, in that process, some people might be very negative about it in their life, and they said, "Oh, I got nothing to offer, and I know nothing. I just come from, I don't know. I'm gonna put it as an example. One of the towns in Cuba. I just come from Havana City. What can I offer to this city? I really love rock and roll. Rock is not really from Cuba, but I love all the bands. Like I really have nothing to add to rock and roll." And that's completely crazy, because I'm just going to name you another amazing human first and amazing musician that we count with in this city of Toronto. His name is Elmer Ferrer. Amazing guitarist. And he can play from any style of music, rock, and he's a big fan of rock and roll, as I was and I still am. I am, But he knows the Cuban music inside out, the music from his region, that he comes from Santi Spiritu, which is, he has their own formula of playing Cuban music, all the established styles. And recently, he just finished touring worldwide with Zucchero. Zucchero put this project together, which it was like half of a band, a huge band, was from Cuba, and the other one was his Italian band, and they had an amazing tour. And Elmer, he's part of this community. He lives in this city. He plays with Lanel and many other artists, and then he's amazing. And then we cannot be far. The moment that you go in that direction, that you think like, well, I was born and raised in Cuba, and then it's only about Cuban music that it's been exposed. How can I learn about really like rock and roll, country music from the States, jazz? Like, I have no access to that. Still, musicians, even though we didn't have access, supported access from the government, we still found ways to find recordings, videotapes of, you name it, Jaco Pastorius, Miles Davis, whoever, and watch those and rewind it and watch it again and learn that style of music and be so far away from the fountain of that style of music, and still people became a jazz player, a rock player, So, yeah.
Everybody has something to add.
And then it always starts with your attitude, how you see yourself. And if you see yourself part of a movement, part of something, you can always add your voice. And you bet that the moment you play, whether the band agrees with the groove that you're playing or they try to change it for the best of the song or whatever. The composer had an idea, and he's trying to find it, and he keeps asking you, Tim, yeah, but can you play it this other way? And then he's helping you, you helping him, and you find something unique. Mm-hmm. And you bet that someone else come after you, and they're not gonna play exactly like you. They could be as good as you, but it's gonna sound unique as well. Mm-hmm. In a different way. So everybody has something.
It's just another voice to add.
Another voice.
Yeah. So you mentioned musical styles. I have to ask.
Yep.
You grew up with, Cuban styles. What do you listen to now? What do you go to when you just want to listen to some music and relax? Like, you said you're a rock fan. Are you sitting down and listening to Metallica? Are you sitting down and listening to John Denver? Like what styles of music and what sounds do you go to when you just want to enjoy?
Everything. Truly everything. And there's so much music that has been recorded already that one has to go through, especially someone like me that come into move to Toronto and Canada, and there's so much history of bands that had recorded many albums, whether it is for rock, for jazz, for pop music in general, all those different categories of pop, and so much great music created already that you have to go through that little by little, and listen to it. But I do listen to all kinds of music, Brazilian music, and call it is like batucada style music, or samba, or partido alto, or any style from Brazil, any style from Portugal, any style from Africa, which is a continent. And within that continent, there's so many countries that people play different styles of music. Music from Japan, music from Spain. I'm a big fan of flamenco. I'm a flamenco player, became through years after many years working with the Esmeralda Enrique Spanish dance company. And the city gave me the opportunity to learn about this form of music, which is flamenco music. It's music from the southern Spain, influenced by many cultures that went there one day through history of humankind. And then it is what flamenco is. It's not one thing, it's all. And it has the seed and the carrying on of many people going through that land, and then adding a little bit more and then changing it. And the gypsy people from Spain rescuing it and making it part of their identity and adding their own voice and adding their own sound to it. And they're responsible for at least rescuing, in my opinion, which I know very little about flamenco, but I'm a big fan. I can tell you that. They're responsible for bringing it alive and exposing it. I can just name you a few people that are responsible for changing flamenco and affecting the entire world by bringing this music out of Spain. Paco de Lucia is one of them. He passed, unfortunately, in 2014, I believe, or 15. He passed away, but it was the most amazing flamenco guitarist, but also non-flamenco too. He would play anything, and he wouldn't care. He would be criticized by the purists in Spain, and in fact, he wasn't not even coming from a gypsy family. Portuguese, and I think Portuguese, and then Spanish in general. But Vicente Amigo, it's another guitarist that should be looked at by any guitarist in the world, even if your thing is speed metal. When you listen to that guy playing his guitar, his style, it doesn't mean that you're gonna all of a sudden play that, but you go like, wow, you just build an awareness, a respect for what other ones do in a different way, playing with their fingers instead of a pick, which is great too. There's nothing wrong, with any. It's just there are different approaches to playing an instrument, right? But then all of a sudden you think of all those things, and your attitude on the stage could change for better. All of a sudden you don't feel like so selfish about, it's about me. No, it goes like, wow, that was a great lesson just watching that YouTube video from that guy. All of a sudden, I feel like I have so much to learn. I have so much to become aware of, music to listen to, you know? And that's what I do. I listen to a lot of music from any possible style or genre that we could categorize any music under, you know? And if it touches me, and at least I listen to the album once. If I really don't care to listen again, you know, to that album, I just put it aside and then I still have it there. There's a reference to something that at some point potentially could help me.
You've had that experience,
yeah.
Right? And then you can take that as part of your experience,
Absolutely.
Or you can just move on. Right?
Absolutely. Everything is unique, nothing is purist. That's how I look at it. Everything is unique because the moment you play on the your drum set, it's unique. It's your voice, Tim. It is my way of playing. It is whoever player that we can talk about it. But again, it's not pure because it has a history and it's attached to all these backgrounds and this cultural, you know, and that other cultural and this one that came here and then join it with this other one. And it's just part of, that's the way I look at it. It's part of just one tree. There's many branches, but one tree of music.
A human tree
as well.
Of communication.
Exactly.
Whether it's through voice or through action on a device or an instrument of some form, it's a communication.
And such a powerful one music is, because you could speak Mandarin and, you know, and another person beside you could speak, I don't know, Polish, and then you both are sitting together understanding what's going on and connected, being, you know, connected to that, and not necessarily understanding the language that they singing at. Or if it's instrumental music, you bet that it's like, it's equal to everybody and everybody's speaking the same language, just music. Listening.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. One final question. When you think of a 1957 Chevy, does it feel worldly or does it feel Cuban to you?
Totally Cuban.
Yeah?
Not even American, even though it was made in America, right? But totally Cuban because it's been part of the history of that country for the last 60, 70 years, if not more. And those were the vehicles that you would travel in the island as a taxi, you know, doing the service, or your neighbor. That you could also ask him to, are you going to Havana tomorrow? What time are you leaving in the morning? Oh, I have to go to Havana. You think I can catch a ride with you? He goes, absolutely. I'll be ready to go at 7 a.m., so be ready outside my house, my door. So, and those were the vehicles, right? And they still around.
Well, some without a bumper.
Yeah, but the ones that I took the bumper actually were the one that completely got past repairing.
Oh, okay.
So it was just the chassis, you call it? Yeah. Just sitting there, rusting, and then this part were probably made, it's the hardest part of those vehicles, of stainless steel, right? Really hard and still like in perfect shape, you know.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see somebody have a perspective on something that's so iconically American as something that's so iconically Cuban.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Chendy, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
What a great experience.
Thank you for listening to my story and then allow it to get out there, and then that's it.
Hopefully there'll be more stories.
Thanks so much.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
To learn more about Chendy Leon, please find him on Facebook, and you can also get more information at Humber College's website. For more information on the New Shores project, of which Chendy is now a contributing artist, please check out newshoresproject.org or at New Shores Music on both Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for checking out the New Shores podcast, Scenes Edition. The podcast features conversations with musicians, producers, educators, and artists who are passionate about sharing their stories of shaping new sounds, experiences, and ideas. Look for new episodes including the NSP Live Special Editions featuring performances from notable artists.